You do not have to do all the things to make good money as a coach. And you definitely don't have to be salesy and self-promoting and inauthentic in order to get good paying clients. It does take a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be scattered and overwhelming and discouraging. If you just focus on these 3 small shifts, you can actually get your business to 20K a month without a website and without social media and without all the icky sales activity. Here's the problem. To me, all of these gurus online, they share these cheesy, inauthentic strategies, and it's like, oh, here's the 5 secrets. And the problem is a lot of their frameworks are too complicated. It's not something that you would be able to do as a new growing coach and actually make it work. Because what they don't tell you is they're selling marketing. They're selling how to do what they do. They're not selling how to do coaching well. So instead of all of that, which is just distraction, it's overwhelm, what I wanted to do is put together a program and an approach for you that works specifically for coaches, leadership coaches, business coaches, relationship coaches. And that's what this is all about. So here's the deal. Several years ago, I made one simple shift and the results were crazy. In less than a year, I went from 0 as a startup to over 6 figures and surpassing my corporate salary I had before. And at this point, I've helped over 1,000 clients and customers through this business, Greenhouse Coaching, and we've gotten to over 50K a month. So when I made this shift, I felt something internally that I had never felt before in my career. There was this sense of calm, focused, steady. It's like I knew I was productive and I knew at the end of the day what I had accomplished. I remember telling my wife, Ashley, I said, oh, I know what I did today. Like I actually decided a thing, got it done, versus in a lot of my jobs before, it was like, well, you're going to meetings, sending emails, but what are you really accomplishing? But it's not just me. The coaching industry has actually been exploding and stories like this are all over the place. At the recording of this video, the coaching industry has surpassed $7 billion. And the total market value for the industry is over $150 billion. That's pretty big. And the coaching industry has been one of the fastest growing the past several years. Also, the ICF has reported that solopreneur coaches on average make about 60 to 70K per year, and that's in North America. But 20% of those coaches make 6 figures and above, and it can go quite a ways above. And these are the stories of people that I help through my Business Builder program. For me, when I left my corporate job in 2016, I carried along with me all these bad corporate habits. And what that meant, and you might be familiar, is packing my calendar full, trying to go from meeting to conversation and crush emails all day. And I wasn't actually getting anything meaningful done, but I felt productive. Like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm doing all these things, I'm busy. And so what that left me with is no focus, which meant no income. What I want to do is what I wish someone would have done for me is help you avoid that pitfall. Because effectively my strategy, my business strategy was, well, I'm going to sit around, make some social posts, and then just hope clients show up. And it's not a great strategy. So what we have to do instead is have 3 simple things we focus on. Ditch the overwhelm, forget about all of those hacks and all of those methods out there. Just focus on the few things that actually work for real coaches over and over. So in this video, I want to share exactly how I did it so that you can do the same in your business. So if you like what I'm talking about so far, go ahead and pause and subscribe to this channel because this is where I share all kinds of good stuff that will help you in your business. And on Instagram at coach_business_builder, Coach Business Builder. All right, if you're like me, you want to shift from this corporate grind type of life that I was describing to the freedom and flexibility and fulfillment that comes in this coach life. And so we're really trying to shift from here to here. And I think it's made up of a bunch of things. Some of them that stand out to me is, okay, I want to shift from the red tape to just deciding and doing. This was one of the most fulfilling things for me when I started this business was instead of waiting around and trying to convince people for months and get buy-in, it's just decide and just do it and make things happen. But also it was things like trying to fit the mold all the time in a context where I didn't fit the mold to just being freely myself and feeling good about that, showing up and doing what I do best. We all know the Sunday scaries feeling. And now, at least most days, I feel pretty excited for Mondays and to tackle the week. And then you can look at this list, but one of my favorites is this endless meetings and emails to feeling accomplished at the end of the day, helping people, making an impact, and knowing what you're doing. So really the question that most coaches have at the beginning or as they're trying to grow is, hey, can I make enough money doing this? Is this an actual viable business, or am I wasting my education and my experience? And that can be a hard thing to deal with. I remember struggling with that question myself. But then also as I start, what should my offering be? And what should I focus on each day? There's so many things you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur. And then of course, where do I find clients? How much should I charge? And then eventually, how do I scale myself? So at the end of the day, coaches are wrestling with this question, like, how do I get clients consistently and authentically in a way that feels like me and doesn't feel like I am working against my own core values? So if this is what you want to do, then you have to ditch the old approach that doesn't work of busyness and trying to do all the things and as a result doing none of the things. And you have to take a new approach. So let's dive into that new approach. Instead of this scattered, busy schedule, and this is a lot of what my calendar always used to feel like, just back to back to back. And like I said, then there's still no paying clients because I'm just running around trying to do a little of everything. Is we want to move to this world where you have these focused blocks of intentional effort. And so you might have a whole Monday morning or half the day where you're focused on intentional steps to move the business forward. And it's really these big blocks to work on the business itself and big blocks for being with clients. But to separate those modes so that you're not switching between all the time. And so I think of it like this, there's this kind of scattered, busy overwhelm where your strategy is just hoping clients show up, and moving to what I call the business builder growth plan, which is the 3 shifts that I mentioned. Nailing your niche, so you know who you're talking to and who you're trying to reach. Path to clients, so you can actually turn those into paying clients consistently and effectively. And then simple systems that keep the business running while you're helping people grow. And so now you're just focusing on what matters and kind of ditching all the distractions that want to take over and kind of pull you away from building a sustainable business. So let's dive into these one at a time. First, nailing your niche. The problem is that as coaches, especially newer coaches, we tend to talk a lot about our coaching. And we want people to know our methods and strategies, and we want to talk about how coaching is so great. The problem with that is people honestly don't care. They don't care about your coaching, and they don't want to buy coaching. They want to buy a solution to their problem. And so you got to make this shift where the way you show up and the way you talk about your business is more about them and the things that they care about right now, their pain points and how you can help them overcome. You got to love our friend Don Miller. I love his quote. He says, "You are the guide that makes the customer the hero of their story." And so it's really shifting the focus back to them and what they care about. And so how do you do this? Well, I like to propose a very simple 3-step process. So number 1, who do you help? You got to get clear on who you help because the riches are in the niches. Like it's all about getting clear on the target customer persona. Then secondly, what problem do you solve for them? And so there is a specific pain point that this person always wants to solve, and that's what you become known for. And thirdly, how do you uniquely solve it? So let's look at these in detail. Who do you help? Now, this is just an exercise you can do right now, and you can keep pausing and work through this. First of all, list the people that you've helped, whether it's as clients or just in general in your life. There's usually people that you've been helping along the way. And if you list them and you look for these common threads, you're going to find things that are similar in between. And this gives you an idea of both the demographics and the psychographics. Demographics being kind of the hard, tangible things like the age, the stage of life, the job role, where they live, what they're into. The psychographics being more the intangibles, what their hopes and dreams are, what their fears and insecurities are. So now you know who you help, and you can look at what problem you solve for them. So same thing. look at this list and think about what were they complaining about when you first talked to them. So you have to go back a little and remember, but that's why it helps to have a list of people. Like, okay, my first conversation with them, what is it that they were struggling with? And again, look for the common themes. Now, here's a little trick. So it can be easy to find these common themes that you might be good at, but also stop and look at which ones did you enjoy working with the most? Which kind of problems did you tend to help people get the best results? Because this might clue you in on something about your specific niche. By the way, is it niche or niche? I don't know. I say both. I'm going to use both of them here. And then thirdly, how do you solve it? And so this is where you want to get into your unique way of helping them get to the goals and the vision they have. And again, it takes a little thinking and sometimes observing what you have done in the past or what you currently do with people. But here's the deal. Like, people, they want to buy a solution to their problem. They want to know the process that'll get them there. And they want to know that their investment is worth it. And so if you only give them one of those pieces, they're going to hesitate to purchase and jump in. Because think about it. If you buy something on Amazon, you get reviews, you get pictures of what you're getting, you get a feature list, you get all kinds of information so that you know when a package gets to your door, or like me, it's on the back porch and they don't know where your front door is, you know exactly what's in the package. The problem with services like coaching is you don't know what you're getting. And you might be the most amazing coach in the world, but if they don't know exactly how it's going to be delivered and see the proof and the evidence, they're going to be hesitant to buy. And so this is how you solve for that, is you productize your service. What is the outcome? What is the process? What is the pricing and what is the packaging? And then within all of that, you just clear the air of their doubts and objections. Show them what they're going to get. At this point, most coaches are throwing up the flag and saying, yeah, but I don't know, who am I? Like, everyone does this stuff. And there's experts that are way more well-known who do what I do. And the imposter syndrome starts creeping in. So I want to just remind you of something I talk to my clients about all the time. You are the only you doing what you do. And the reason I know that that's true is because you're the only person on the planet with the same combination of skills and background and passions and your personality, and all that combined makes you a unique coach. And so the people in your sphere of influence, if they like your style and want to work with you, guess what? There's no one else who does it like you. And they probably don't know many other coaches anyway. You're probably the only one. So just decide to ditch the imposter syndrome and know that you're the only one who offers what you offer, how you offer it. And then secondly, this complaint I hear all the time, coaches say, oh, everyone's becoming a coach. And every time I go into LinkedIn, it's like 5 more people I know have become a coach. And it's actually not true that everyone's becoming a coach. The thing is, the algorithm knows your interests and what you do, and it's serving you a bunch of these coaches. You're seeing it because you're swimming in those waters. But to most of the population, they still don't know what coaching is. They don't know a coach personally or haven't worked with one. And it's still kind of a new and budding industry. So here's a few examples from some of my clients, and maybe this just helps. Christina, she described her niche as this: I help business owners navigate organizational growth by providing expert HR and change management strategies. So you can hear in there like what she does, who she helps, the problem she solves, and how she does it. Benedicta said, I help divorced women rediscover their inner superpower and step into their next bold chapter with confidence through my signature coaching program. I like how she adds the how she does it at the end. Or Joe, who said, I'm a professional mess fixer. I help people navigate ADHD and executive function through targeted coaching and strategies. I think you get the point. So this is the nailing your niche. You want to get really crisp on who you help, the problem you solve for them, and how you help them solve it. All right, next let's move to path to clients. So here's the problem. In the old way of doing business development, sales, and even online marketing and funnels, this is the reality. If you wanted to book one paying client, you had to start with 100 conversations at the top. Out of those 100, 10 would be willing to take the conversation further, and out of those 10, 1 would book. So that means if you want 10 paying clients, which is what I recommend for coaches starting out, then you would have to have 1,000 conversations. And the reality is, it would be hard to do even if you're motivated to do it, but most coaches hate cold outreach and sales and talking to strangers and self-promoting. So you're just not going to do it, is the reality. So instead, what I recommend is something called 6 degrees of separation. Here's what it is. 6 degrees of separation is the idea that I'm going to start with talking to this one person here, and they are going to introduce me to this other person. And I'm still not trying to get a client yet. I'm just having these curious conversations. They lead me to the next person, and then that leads me to the person who ends up being my client. And so what it is letting this kind of domino effect happen where people know people and they want to help you and they want to connect you. And so they kind of accelerate the sales process and lead you to the person who actually needs your help. So let's work it back. I used to be a mechanical engineer. I bring that engineering process brain to coaching. And so I like to think of reverse engineering problems like this. So if we work it back from, all right, this goal of 20K a month revenue in your business, that would equal about 13 clients. And I'll explain what that looks like in a minute. But in order to get clients, you need a clear and compelling offer. And then in order to have a clear and compelling offer, you need to have conversations. In order to have conversations, you have to make invites. And to make invites, you need connections. But here's the last straw. In order to have connections, you need to be able to articulate what you do and make a clear ask. And so all of these steps, working backwards, are what get you to the 20K a month paying clients. And I've seen it happen over and over again, and it happened for me. And so I want to walk you through these steps now. All right, so first the revenue, the 20K a month. How did I get that number? Well, I think the reality of current kind of middle class American life is 20K a month would be a really good revenue to get you the personal income you need. And the breakdown of that would look like this: 10 individual clients at about $500 a month, which is a pretty good starting price for a newer coach. And then 3 company or corporate clients at around $5,000 a month. And so that mix will get you to your 20K. And it's a really nice way to balance the fact that you want to help individuals, but they can only pay so much. But you can help companies who are needing and used to paying more for services. So like we said, in order to get to that revenue, you need to have a clear and compelling offer. What does that look like? So this offer design is just a simple way to start thinking through what do you offer, and so you can package it into that Amazon-like packaging. So first, who? Like what type of person or company is this for? And put some words to that. And then the what problem is being solved, like we said before, but also what outcome will they get? And you can get into this with the approach that you take. So maybe you have a methodology, maybe there's a certain tool that you use, and explain those things. When is just the timeline to get them to the result they want, and where is the specifics of how you will interact. Is this online, in person, some kind of mix? And don't forget the why. It's the goal of the engagement. What is their overall goal in doing this work? And then the how is really the process. How will it start? What are we going to do? What are the steps we're going to take at the beginning, the middle, and the end? And then, of course, how much? What are the pricing options? So let me talk about the juicy part about pricing, because coaches always ask me, like, what should my prices be? And even at this point, after doing this for a while, I still feel insecure about my prices all the time. It's a very, very difficult thing. And then you see other coaches out there and you start questioning yourself. So let's just look at some starting points. At the time that I made this video, coaching is somewhere between $350 to $2,000 a month for professional leadership and business coaching. There are, of course, people who go way higher than that, but this is a good starting point. And it really depends on your experience and your skill set. But then facilitation is a higher priced engagement. And so that can be anywhere from 5 to 15,000 per engagement, whether that's facilitating an offsite or doing a workshop. And so it really depends, first of all, on the type of coaching you do and the market that you're in. For me, I've been coaching for a long time and I work with high-level executive leaders now. I'm working in an industry like financial services and tech, so I can have higher prices. But somebody who's maybe doing life or relationship coaching and just getting started out, you want to start at a lower price point. The thing is, you do not want to give it away for free. This is a surefire way to shoot yourself in the foot. And here's why, because first of all, you need people to value the coaching themselves. If they're not paying for it, they're not going to value it. Therefore, they're not going to show up. They're not going to get the results. But also you need to value what you do, and having a price point on it does that. Secondly, if somebody pays, they're more likely to prioritize the coaching and show up and do the work, which leads to getting results and leads to you growing the business. So it's really important to not go for free, but there is a little trick that I'll tell you in a few minutes about how to start out at a lower price. So you don't want to be giving away for free, but you also don't want to be guru high. Like the reality is it's too slow to get started if you start high. Also, you need to base it on your experience and then work your way up into higher markets. And as you do that, you'll build your confidence and you'll build your skill set so that you can have eventually higher prices. So what I would say is choose prices that you feel good sharing with other people. If you don't feel good about the price, it's going to come out in the way you share it, and then it kind of tanks the whole energy. So you want something that feels good sharing it, but also provides for your bare bones income needs. So here's the little trick I was talking about. What you can do as a newer coach is start with a half off your typical prices and give half off in exchange for a case study, a review, and a referral. This is a great deal. Everyone feels good. Both parties love this because for you feel confident you're starting to get paying clients and build and get momentum, but they love it because they get a discount. And the great thing is, as a business, you need these case studies, you need reviews, you need referrals, you need social proof. And so this is a quick and easy way to get it in a way that's very real and authentic. All right, so now that we talked about the price ranges, let's look at the pricing options. What I would recommend is, in this pricing scheme we're talking about, your offer is $500 a month for 3 months. Again, have a timeline on it. Don't make them commit forever. But offer them a discount to pay in full upfront. And so what I would say is a 10% discount is cash in the bank for you right away and a discount for them. Everyone feels great. Or they can spread out the payments, and that kind of gives you the standardized pricing that you feel confident about. And so having the two options is good because they feel like they have control, that they get to decide, but you're also not overwhelming them with too many options. And so this kind of gets rid of the unsettled feeling of not knowing what your pricing is, making it up on the fly, changing it all the time. And you start to feel confident and show up more confident. And so, the way this can look, and credit here to Tom Young's, he had this idea. You may have heard of things like product paths or value ladders. I like this packaging that Tom talks about with an access stack. And so this is what I do right here with Business Builder, is you get to access me making free content like this and getting to know me. And then through that, I offer free resources that you can utilize and get momentum. Then if you want to take a little baby step further, but you're not ready to go all in, I have low priced products like mini courses and sometimes like behind the scenes workshops. And if you want to take the next step, I have kind of like a mastermind group. So that's a lower price than one-on-one coaching, but it allows you to get in and start seeing what it's like to work with me, getting results. And then of course, my ideal is one-on-one and group coaching programs where we're really going to dive in and get you the transformation you're looking for. This stack allows people who are interested to engage with you where they are ready to engage with you. So you're not asking people to make a huge leap from stranger to high-priced program. It gives them a chance to work their way up. So Here's a cool little trick. It's called the 10x rule. This has been really helpful to me when I think about pricing the different levels of that stack. So the research shows that 10% of people are willing and wanting to pay 10 times more to get more value from you. So if you're not a math person, let me break it down. Basically, that means if I had 1,000 people paying me $50 for something, out of that 1,000, there would be 10 who are willing and wanting to pay 5,000. And out of that 10, there would be one who is wanting to pay $50,000 for more of my value, more of my time. And that's usually where like a corporate engagement would come in. And so this is great. And this is where we come to the client breakdown I told you. 10 clients at 500 and one at 5,000. Boom. There you've got your $10,000 a month. All right. A few quick objections that always come up. So the reality is people don't know what coaching should cost. And so you have to be the one to help them understand. And that's why having a structured framework really helps. They don't know what it should cost. And so they're just questioning, is this a good deal or am I getting swindled? And so a part of how you do that is help people to shift from seeing this as an expense and a cost that's just like, I'm throwing away money and I hope that it pays off, to looking at it as an investment. This is an investment in whatever result they said that they want. So like if you work with me and you want to get your business to 20K a month, guess what? Like paying my price tag for the one-on-one coaching, if it yields that result for you, that's more than worth it. It pays for the coaching and then a lot more. And so it's shifting from seeing this as a cost where I'm throwing away money to what's the investment that they're making in working with you. And of course, we don't want to trick them and try to get them to pay too much. And so this is a way to help them figure out what is their ROI. Like, I am in coaching mode. I'm trying to help them understand what is it they want to accomplish and what will the return on their investment be? Is it worth it? I think it's just helpful to shift your mindset from I'm trying to sell and convince someone to, no, I'm actually in coaching mode. And I'm pretending like if they were already a paying client and they came to me asking, hey, Steve, I'm trying to make a decision about this big investment in coaching. Could you help me think through this and make a good decision? Then what would I do? I would put on my coaching hat and I would help them think through how to make the decision. And lastly, just don't worry about all the big players out there. Like I said earlier, people want you. That's who they know. That's who they have trust with. And you need to make an amount from your coaching that fits the business you're building. And so there is no perfect answer of pricing. You can take these ranges and ideas and then build what's perfect for your business. All right, so where are we at? We talked about the revenue, a clear and compelling offer. And so now to give those offers, you need to have conversations. And this is where you shine. You know how to have good conversations. The problem is, as coaches, when we're in that selling mode, we tend to suppress our coaching skills and we start getting weird and awkward. So here is how to have great business development conversations using your coaching skills. I love this so much. My clients love this because it takes what we're already good at, coaching people, and applies it to the business development process. So all you have to do is just do what you do best and let people experience the value of working with you as a coach. Don't make it this elusive thing that it's like a bait and switch. And maybe one day if you pay me a bunch of money, then you'll get to experience this. Just let them experience it right now in the conversation we're having. And the way we do that is just like a story. So there's 3 parts. You've got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's really just that the conversation has a beginning, exploring who they are, what they want, what's keeping them stuck, just like you would do as a coach. And then in the middle, you can explore what they've tried and are the different options that they've already given a shot, or help them explore what would it be like if they reach those goals. Like help them envision that future. And then in the end, if what they've been talking about is something you can help them do, then just share that. Say, hey, this is something I can help you with. Are you interested to hear what it would look like to work together? And if they want to, then you share. So again, it's just you're using questions and you're using your coaching skills to help them understand what you offer and figure out if they want it instead of pressuring. So there's two giant home runs to this approach. One is instead of talking about coaching, you are letting them feel it right now. That shift that I talked about. And secondly, you're helping them see that their goals are possible and letting them choose if they want what you're offering or not. And so it's just like coaching where you're letting them have agency and choice and you're empowering them and you're actually helping them learn better decision-making skills and investment skills, but you're also guiding them and giving them a pathway to do that. All right, so let's check in with our reverse engineering steps. So we talked about revenue and the clear and compelling offer, having conversations, and to have conversations, you need to make invites. So here is how you do that. I like to call it reworking networking because I don't like the word networking. To me, it has all this baggage of really awkward events and people trying to hand you business cards and sell you stuff. But the reality is you don't have to do any of that to grow your business. I like to take this approach I call five first friends. And here's how it works. So here are 5 people who already know, like, and trust me. And I'm going to invite them to coffee and share what I'm doing, share about my business, share what the types of clients that I'm looking for and why I'm excited about it. And this person is happy to help and introduces me to these 2 people. And then this person introduces me to these 2 people. And this person here is actually the one who ends up being a client. And so it's that 6 degrees of separation we talked about where I am not talking to these people because they're going to become clients. I'm just trying to make connections that will lead to more connections. And eventually somebody is going to point me to the person or that person to me who already wants to work with someone like me. And so it's what we talked about, 6 degrees of separation. We are not trying to book a client. You have to shift your mindset. I'm not in front of this person because I'm trying to get them to buy something. Instead, I'm meeting with this person to make more connections. And this is a really freeing mindset for most coaches. It gets rid of that icky sales feeling, but at the same time, it makes it more fun for the other person. So here is the limiting false belief a lot of us have. We think, oh, they don't want to help me. I don't want to bother them. Like, I don't want to be a nuisance. And the reality is most people, especially if they know you or were introduced to you in a warm way, they want to help you. The problem is just that they don't know how. And so we have to guide them and tell them how to help us. And that's why it's really this simple here. First, schedule the meetup. Remind them why we're meeting, both in the email when you're scheduling it and when you first get to the meeting. Then you simply share about your business. You ask for their thoughts and advice. And this is kind of how you usually invite someone to the meeting too. You say, hey, could I share with you about my business and what I'm doing and get any thoughts or advice that you have? People love to share their advice. And then you talk about those ideas. You get their feedback. You actually apply what they share with you. And then if it makes sense, you ask if they know someone that you should talk to. And if so, don't leave it there, but actually instruct them how to connect you to that person. You'd be surprised how many people just don't know how to do that. And that's where they get stuck. And then follow up either that day or a week later if you haven't heard from them. So again, people, they do want to help you. You need to tell them how. And so 6 degrees later from these first 5 friends, you'll be connected with that person who has the problem you solve and they're ready and wanting and willing to pay for you to help them solve it. So at that point, that's when you do the coach before the coaching conversation that we just talked about. Little FYI, I have a mini course linked in the description called Reworking Networking, and it gives you not only the breakdown of these steps, but it actually provides like scripts and example messages and what to say and how to conduct the meeting. It's kind of like a foolproof step-by-step guide for how to do this. You can grab the link in the description. Okay, so let's check in on our business builder growth plan. So we've talked about nailing your niche and the path to paying clients. So now let me just hit on a couple key things about simple systems. A lot of coaches tell me, I just feel scattered. I don't really know what to focus on or if I'm doing things right in my business. I'm scared I'm not doing things the right way, or I just need focus. Like I need some rhythms and I need some dependable process for how to do this. So simple systems. Now here's the problem. The problem is, how do you run your business when you also have to meet with clients? And it's a problem because the more you grow, the more you're spending time with clients, and then your business starts to suffer. And so the solution are systems. This is how I avoid the hamster wheel that people fear or that people talk about being an entrepreneur. And so this is a brief overview. I have more that I go into in my program and in other resources, but I just want to give you a sense of what are the things you should be focused on. So I would break it into these three categories. There are planning systems, finance and legal systems, and tracking systems. And so planning is things like, okay, what's the vision and direction? What are your goals? And then having ways like I have a weekly planning rhythm that we call the weekly, and this is how we actually decide priorities each week after week. Then there's the finance and legal, and if you're just getting started, you might not even know how to set up a business. I remember that feeling. No one seemed to tell you the basics. Or you already have a business and you just need to make sure you have some accounting things in place. So at the beginning of the business, it's stuff like, all right, how do I create an LLC? And what is my financial runway? How much time do I have? How much money do I have in the bank or in some kind of loan or investment? But for established businesses, it's more of this, all right, how do I do invoicing and cash management? How do I do accounting and taxes? And then what are the different platforms that you use? Sometimes too, it can get out of hand. You start signing up for subscriptions. And if you really add it up, you realize you're spending thousands of dollars a month on all these subscriptions that you don't need. So sometimes it's a matter of scaling down to the few platforms that really work for you. And then tracking systems. A lot of times this is, how do you organize your notes so you don't lose stuff, especially when it comes to notes about clients or content ideas you have. And then also, how do you track priorities and stick to those? It's funny, I've worked with people before when we talk about systems and tracking, they just pull out like this stack of Post-it notes on their desk. And we have a good laugh, and then we're like, all right, we got to organize this stuff. So there's how you manage to-dos, customer management and tracking, and then even user experience. How do you design and ensure that the way that people experience working with you is what you want them to experience? And so those are the basic systems. Now, like I said, I used to be an engineer, so I love the 80-20 rule. And you've probably heard of it. The idea is that out of all the effort that you put into your business, 80% of that effort only yields 20% of the results. But 20% of the effort, a small portion of the effort you put in, actually produces 80% of the results. So what does this mean? What it means is that if you want to grow your business faster, if you want to have more impact and generate more income, you have to identify those 20% things and then focus most of your energy and attention on those. And that's hopefully what I'm giving you in this video. I've tried to boil the ocean for you and give you the 20% things. Nailing your niche, path to clients, and simple systems. These are the 20% that actually make a difference. And so I'm trying to avoid this type of life that I experienced in the corporate world where you're just kind of like meetings about meetings to talk about maybe having a meeting to maybe sort of kind of do something. Instead, it's like, why don't we decide what matters, focus on what matters and then see the results. And so it's kind of interesting when you look at it, a bunch of studies, but University of California, Irvine, they said 2.1 hours per day is what the average worker spends trying to recover from interruptions. Like literally just trying to get back on track when you got distracted. That's crazy when you're talking about a new business. Like 2 hours of my time is worth thousands of dollars. So I can't just lose that all the time. The Journal of Applied Psychology said that people who have time blocks, who actually focus on the things that matter intentionally, they're 30% less likely to procrastinate than people who don't have time blocks. And also our favorite HBR said it takes 23 minutes on average to refocus after cognitive context switching, which just means you've switched modes. You've gone from working with clients to filling out metrics to writing an email to creating content. It can take 23 minutes to refocus. So what does all this mean? Well, I have another mini course called CEO of Your Calendar. Again, the link is in the description. And this is where I talk about the number one system that is actually going to completely change and improve the way that you run your business. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by CEO of your calendar is that the problem is if you don't design your days, someone else will. Because other people are going to send stuff to you saying this is urgent, and they're going to put their problems at the top of your inbox. And so you have to flip it and get really intentional and say, no, I am going to design my days the way that's going to make my business work and grow. So things like nailing your niche and path to clients, everything we've talked about, they're not going to happen if you don't have time blocked off for those tasks. And so really what I'm looking at is the fact that these kind of intentional goals, they don't live anywhere in your actual day-to-day life. And so then they don't happen. This is why New Year's resolutions fail. And so what you want to do is put time on your calendar and make sure those things live somewhere. And that way you can decide what your days look like. So here's what I recommend to clients. 3 simple blocks. 1 is weekly planning, 2 is deep work, and 3 is business development meetups. And so your week might have these kind of blocks where you say, you know what, every Friday, I'm going to make the most important time on my calendar for deciding what matters next week. Then I can rest easy on the weekend. I can go into Monday and really hit the ground running. And so Monday, I have a deep work block. And that's where I really do the things that are going to move my business forward. So I don't know, maybe you're at the point where you need to refine your offerings or do something with your website or build a new program. Like that's the time when you do that. Uninterrupted, laptops, notifications are shut off, everything, all the distractions are away. And maybe you even go somewhere where you can focus in a better mind space. And then the BD meetups, like, okay, maybe this whole block and some of here is all set aside for having those coffee meetings and following up with people that were introduced to you. The thing I love about this is when you decide what your calendar looks like, you're kind of in that strategic mode and you decide it one time. And then from there, you can just be in doing mode every time that block comes up. You don't have to wake up every morning and question your whole life again. So what happens when you ignore your blocks? Because we all do that. We get to that block of time. And we're like, but I just want to answer some emails. Well, here's the thing. You had this good intention of blocking the time and doing something that matters. But then you kind of ditch your best laid plans. So here's a couple strategies that always work. First of all, have all your requests on the calendar go through an owner. This could be a virtual assistant. This could be an AI assistant, but it's some way to get it away from you, because when the requests come from you, you're going to be too nice and too flexible, and you're going to give people time that should be yours for your intentional blocks. And then second strategy is to move the block instead of canceling it. So let's say I had my deep work block here Monday morning, something urgent came up and I have to shift it. Instead of canceling that block, I should just move it to another part of the week. And that way I don't lose that block of time. Okay, so that is the Business Builder Growth Plan. We've basically hit on the core elements of all 3 things. And if this is something that you want to do in your business, I would give you these 2 steps. First of all, subscribe to this channel because I'll share more helpful videos like this along the way. And second, DM me the word grow20 on Instagram. Again, my handle is Coach Business Builder. And if you DM me that word, I'll give you all the details about what it's like to work with me. But take what you learned today, start to implement it, and let me know how it goes. If you focus on these 3 little shifts, I promise you, you will be able to gain momentum, grow the business and the life that you want, and get to that next 20K a month goal that you have.